Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Hindu Business Line, I welcome you all to this webinar. Friends, the theme of this webinar is health insurance. Is COVID-19 an inflection point? I am glad to inform you that Business Line has been conducting a series of webinars under its knowledge series, and this is 10th of such webinars. Friends, all of us today mostly thinking about two things. One is about the COVID-19 pandemic. The second one is what could be the financial implications if at all somebody is getting impacted by it, unfortunately. It is not just for you and me. If we have 1.3 billion population, I'm sure most of the people are thinking about it. Apart from perils or risks to health, it is also important that we need to take care of financial security. It is in this context that Business Line thought a webinar on health insurance will be very much timely for all. And we have invited a galaxy of experts who are with us today. I will have a brief introduction of them to you. We have Mr. G. Srinivasan, who is currently Director, NIA. He was also former CMD of New India Assurance. And probably I would say he is one of the topmost senior experts in insurance industry. And he has been heading GIC and all that. We have Mr. Anand Roy, Managing Director, Star Health and Allied Insurance. We do have Mr. Ravi Vishwanath, he is President, Accident and Health for HDFC Ergo. And we have Ms. K. Nityakalyani, who is an independent insurance sector expert who has been extensively writing on insurance for decades by now. She is considered as one of the think tanks for insurance in India. So all the speakers have graciously agreed to our request, Business Line's request. So the modality of this event is, I will just have some questions to each of the panelists. I will request them for the answers. I will ask two questions to each of them. Then once their answers are there, we will roll on the panel discussion. And after that, the floor, of course, web floor, we have to say, will be open to the Q&A for the participants. So, Mr. G. Srinivasan, we'll begin with you. And sir, when this COVID-19 has come, one of the general expectations was that everybody will rush to sign up for health insurance policies. In fact, when we were inquiring with the insurers, there were Business Line also wrote some reports saying that we have 20% increase, 30% increase in inquiries and all that, depending on our feedback from insurers. But I doubt whether we have such a massive patronage increase in subscription to health insurance. Probably, maybe because of two things. One, insurance is almost like Greek and Latin for those who don't understand it. The complex wording, there has been a lot of debate on that. So either people are not understanding insurance, or there are also fears that most of the clients are not generally honored. It's a general perception. Sorry to say that there are a lot of industry experts here. But is it that the complexity of insurance documents, or rather, and the fears about non-honoring of claims is blocking increase in health insurance, sir?
I thank Business Line and Mr. Sridhar for the opportunity. I think you raised a very, very pertinent point. But we in the insurance industry are also wondering what is really happening. We always thought that, the awareness of health insurance is not very high in our country. And that's one of the important reasons why this portfolio has not really taken off to its full potential. I don't think there could be any better period than what we have in the last 4 months. COVID is certainly a crisis. It's a huge challenge. But one, silver lining there is the awareness of health insurance is very, very much there. I don't think that there can be any better time when health insurance can really take off and sell in a large way. Because people understand health insurance, people understand the need for taking a policy, people do understand that it's very expensive to take treatments at hospitals. But unfortunately, as you said, the growth of health insurance in the last quarter is not really to its full potential. The growth has not even been to the extent as we had seen the last year. I would have really expected health insurance to really grow by 100, 200% in this period. As you said, everyone should be really lining up before insurance companies to take a health insurance policy, because that's the need of the hour at this point of time. But that has not happened. If you look at the health insurance scenario in our country, the government is a big health insurance provider. The Pradhan Mantri, Ayushman Bharat covers almost 40% of the population through its mass health insurance scheme. The insurers, through the individual health insurance policies and group health insurance policies, provide another 12% cover for the people. Then you have the CGHS, ESI, so another 8%. So 60% of the people in India today have some form of health insurance. It's adequate or inadequate is a different question. The remaining 40% are not covered. And the paradox is, these are people who can really afford to take health insurance. These are people above poverty line, and they really have the economic wherewithal to take health insurance, and they have not taken. To me, there are two broad reasons. One is, I would call this as a trust deficit on the concept of insurance or on the insurers. People do not understand health insurance policy. It's quite complex. Even insurers don't understand health insurance policies, because that's the complexity of the document. So that is one reason, as you rightly said. The second is, there are grievances on claim settlements. It is not that claims are denied. Most of the claims are paid. Insurance industry does a great job in settling claims quickly and also in huge amounts. But, because of the terms and conditions in the policy, the customers don't get full claims. If he lodges a claim for 1 lakh, probably he gets 80,000, 90,000. Certain part of it is disallowed. I think these two reasons are clearly probably, creating a feeling that, is insurance really a solution? So I think there is some kind of, feeling in the minds of the people that, insurance is not giving them a full, solving all their problems. So this could be one reason. So I think we need to resolve it. The insurance industry has to really, come out and sort out these issues quickly so that the full potential is realized. The second reason, according to me, is the inertia of people. People understand insurance. People feel they have to take insurance, but they just wait. They want somebody to approach them. They don't want to take the initiative of either going through net or reaching out to an intermediary or reaching out to an insurance company. So they just staying there, and the reach of the insurance industry is also relatively low. So to me, these are the two reasons which clearly, I echo what you have stated, are the reasons why we have still not realized the full potential. Hopefully, in the next few months, things will pick up, and we should really see this growth of 100, 200% health insurance in our country.
Yes, sir. Right, sir. You're right. In the last 3 months, since March, we have some changes in health insurance. First of all, as you all of you would be aware, that general health insurance regulations have been tweaked by IRDA. We have this standard health insurance product, Arogya Sanjeevani, that has started just before, from April 1st, if I am right. Then we do have the COVID-specific product, that is Corona Kavach, that's already in the market now. Corona Rakshak will be out in this month end. So how do you see these things, sir? The concerns, whatever that are there, whether the hospitalization costs are more or the complexity of wordings are not being understood by the people, do you think the recent changes in the health cover policies brought in by IRDAI will be of any help in this regard going forward?
I think so. See, IRDA has been extremely proactive in terms of simplifying the policies and in terms of making the policies customer friendly, policyholder friendly. So a lot of things which they have done in the last 1 year. I think they have done quite a few things in the last 1 year in terms of opening up the health insurance product, widening its scope, removing the ambiguous terms and conditions, changing definitions of pre-existing disease, removing some of those pain points like proportionate deduction. All these are very positive, and of course there is still some more need to be done, and I'm sure the regulator will certainly do this. And then the concept of bringing a standard health insurance policy is, I think, is very good, because India is a country where people don't understand insurance literacy is very low. So to have 300 products, 400 products, everyone gets confused, and I don't think even an expert on insurance will be able to say which product is better, because everything is quite complex. Nobody can really compare these products. So I think the concept of bringing the Arogya Sanjeevani policy is extremely positive. I would have, in fact, expected them to go one step ahead to say that this policy should be the basic policy on which every other innovation needs to be built. And then the COVID products which they have brought in is also positive, but it's a very short term. I mean, this is going to be useful only till this pandemic is there. This product cannot be a substitute for the standard health insurance products. So I think I don't want people to feel that they have taken a COVID coverage or Corona coverage and then that's it. I think that's not going to give them a full cover. But it's very positive, and the regulator will continue to do such things in the future as well.
That's wonderful, sir. You are saying that this standard health policy could be made as a base product kind of thing. How do you see it, sir? Can you elaborate on that?
See, what I am saying is right now what the regulator has done is they've designed a standard product, and they said every company should necessarily give this product along with other products. Okay. But I am saying, I'm suggesting that, let the standard basic product be the same. And then, people can always add on riders, build first floor, second floor, third floor, and make it wider product to the people who want it. So that, there is less confusion, and this grievance of, customers thinking something is covered but not getting it covered will not be there.
Okay. That's nice, sir. We'll get back to the points we have suggested. Yeah. We'll move on to Mr. Anand Roy. Ms. Roy, generally, it's like insurance is like a predictive maintenance. We expect something to be on safe side and buy insurance cover, but this pandemic has changed the scenario. How do you see either designing a product or buying a product after some risk is standing right in front of us? What are the issues for all stakeholders in this way? For a policyholder, if I want to buy, or from an insurance perspective, if you want to design a product when you have a threat in front of us, how do you feel it, sir?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Sridhar. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to BusinessLine. See, I will put this in perspective into two scenarios. One is before the pandemic manifested and after it did.
Yes.
As far as health insurance is concerned, as Srinivasan sir mentioned, it was a push product. People were not so much aware of the importance of buying a health insurance. They used to feel it's a wasteful expense, and if they do not make a claim, it's a money down the drain, and so on and so forth. But then, what has happened after the pandemic has manifested is the realization of the importance of health insurance is now setting upon everybody, including the middle income group, the upper middle income group, and also the higher income group. The lower income group, of course, the government takes care of them by the state government and central government schemes. But it is the salaried class, the self-employed, who are more at risk of having no cover. And, in case of an unfortunate hospitalization, having to pay a huge amount of sum. So I think it is a no-brainer that everybody should take a health insurance in the current circumstances after the pandemic has, made this more important. As far as the customers are concerned, the regulator has taken a lot of proactive steps to make this affordable and, easily reachable to all segments of the society. For example, by introducing the new products, making it, Corona-specific products.
Okay.
Also, in the regular products, they have allowed, installment facilities. Mm-hmm. So if customers don't have to pay a lump sum upfront, they can buy it in installments. So a lot of benefits are now made towards the customer. So I think, as far as the policyholders are concerned, it is a no-brainer. Everybody should opt for a health insurance plan. Even
Okay.
if they're covered by their corporate, they should not have, they should not live under a illusion that that is sufficient. They should ideally have a plan for themselves and their family. The health insurance companies on their own have also launched a lot of innovative products during this pandemic time and even before, to cover all segments of the society. For example, senior citizens. Today, a 70-year-old gentleman or lady can buy a policy without even having to think twice,
Okay.
about having to go for a medical checkup or stuff like that. We have a plan for that. There are many, companies who have brought disease specific products. So customers who were not able to buy a health insurance plan earlier, like if somebody had a diabetes, condition, or a heart ailment, or a cancer for that matter, today many health insurance companies offer plans for even, impaired lives like these. So
Yeah.
I think, given the spectrum of products which are available, and given the, regulatory, steps taken to make health insurance affordable and reachable to all, I think it is a no-brainer that everybody should take a health insurance.
Okay. While everybody should have health insurance, one of the concerns, as Mr. Srinivasan has also said, the claim settlement has been an issue, sir, for long in health insurance. According to IRDA data, we have almost the ratio is about 85%, whereas on life side it is more, 95% odd. So the issue is the claims are not being denied, but they are not being paid in full. For example, I make a bill of 3 lakhs rupees, I may get 30,000, 40,000. So what is your take on the claim settlement scenario in the health insurance? How do you suggest that it should be improved?
I think that's a very, good question and very important one for our, industry. Mr. Sridhar, see, comparison to life insurance may not be appropriate because both are very different lines of business. For example, a typical health insurance company like Star Health
Yeah.
will be settling close to 8 lakhs to 10 lakh claims every year.
Okay.
The entire life insurance industry may not be settling that many claims in a year.
Hmm.
So the number of claims which are settled by health insurance companies are very different. Of
Okay.
course, there is a concern that health insurance claims are not settled in full or settled partially. Most of it is, which is because of, as Srinivasan sir mentioned, some policy conditions are there which sometimes the customers do not understand. For
Right.
example, there are waiting periods for various diseases and pre-existing conditions.
Right.
They'll end up making claim for a cataract after 6 months, and the claim gets rejected because there is a 2-year waiting period for cataract.
Right.
People cannot understand that. So that's where we are, the regulator is also trying to play an important role in streamlining and, standardizing such conditions, so that people, general public gets to understand these conditions better.
Okay.
And you have to understand that unlike life insurance and other lines of business, there is an intermediary here called the hospital network, which is very, very, there is globally, it's not only in India, globally, there has always been some kind of, push and pull between the payer and the provider, obviously because of reasons, both being in business. So that is always a challenge. But having said that, the customer has to get the best experience. That's not the, problem of the customer. As far as, the customer is concerned, they should get the best experience when they make a claim. Health insurance is an emotional subject. If some near or dear one is admitted in a hospital, customers expect, seamless service. So as far as health is concerned, it is not only the volume of amount getting paid, it is also the speed at which you pay.
Right.
Somebody is admitted in the hospital, within 30 minutes, can you give a pre-authorization? I think that's where the, trick of the trade lies. And most of the insurance companies, including ours, we are investing heavily on technology. How do we make straight through processes? How do we ensure that, there is a seamless customer experience when somebody gets admitted in hospital? I think these are the things which we are working on. And one of the things that you will appreciate is, because of the fantastic improvements that the health insurance industry has done over the last few years, the it is one of the fastest growing business in the general insurance segment, because customers are reposing their trust in health insurance. They're buying policies, of course, not to the expected level which we would like to, but still there is a fast growth. Second is, health insurance is an annual project, annual contract. So every year the customer has the choice to renew or not to renew. And we see that many of I can speak for my company, we can see that many of our customers, almost 90% plus customers, renew their policies. We derive, satisfaction from the fact that this is happening, in the sense that customers are happy with our services. They have trust in the services of the company, so that, they want to, renew their contracts. So I think, yes, though there is always a scope for improvement in customer satisfaction and claim settlement, we are on the right path, and we will be improving further. I believe so.
So if customers are satisfied to that an extent, do you see any trust deficit, Mr. Roy?
I think the trust deficit largely lies in during onboarding the customers. I think that's a gap that we have to fill. There is a training requirement for intermediaries, for for channels, because what happens is, it's a little complicated subject, and it's a long term sheet, and sometimes the intermediaries do not explain the entire benefits or waiting periods to the customers, and they are taken by surprise when they make a claim, and then the trust deficit falls on the insurance company, that you did not settle the claim. So I think that's where the challenge lies for the industry as a whole. We are working on it, on how to train our intermediaries and channels better, so that the customers are fully aware of what they are buying, and they do not have any unpleasant surprises when they have a need.
Okay. And when you are referring to renewals, I just would like to make a point here. The renewals are happening mostly. This is the feedback which I get as part of my writing on insurance. If I make a claim, it's very unlikely that I renew with the same company, sir. Most of the people who are going for the same company for renewals is that as long as I don't make a claim, I trust your company. Once I make a claim, some company don't give. Your company is not strong. But once I make a claim, then I will definitely be disappointed and try to shift my insurer. Do you see this dichotomy that in renewals, how many people are coming back after taking a claim to the company? Don't you think that's an important indicator to understand the trust of the customers?
Absolutely, Mr. Sridhar, very, very important indicator. We as an organization track that very closely, how many customers have made claims and how many of them have renewed their policies. So that's something that we pride ourselves in. Our numbers are good, but as an industry, I don't have the data, so I may not be able to comment.
Right.
But I can tell you that it's a free world. The customer has a choice, and the regulator has given the choice to the customer that he can move to any of the insurance companies if they are not satisfied with the services. That's a great power available at the hands of the customers, and they are availing it. We see a lot of portability happening inwards as well as outwards.
Yeah, that's nice. Thanks, Mr. Ravi. We'll get back to you in the discussion. Mr. Ravi, we'll move on to you. I have two questions for you. The pricing becomes most important part of any insurance, and more so in health insurance. And even if you see the latest policies or products that have been brought in, including the Corona Kavach and all that, the pricing has been left to the insurers. How do you see the pricing scenario in the country now, especially in the wake of serious disorders like ailments like cancer or dengue and COVID like that?
Sure. Hi, Sridhar. Thanks, and again, great to be here and to join this wonderful panel.
Thank you, sir.
I think it's a very, very important thing that you have raised in terms of pricing, because pricing ultimately in our country is an art and a science.
Yeah.
And it is at the moment, I would say, an inexact science. Given the fact that, while our policies are typically annually renewable, but we are in fact providing a lifelong guarantee of coverage, it is very, very important to get the pricing right. It is also then very important once you have priced it, because the pricing is done basis certain assumptions. It is then very important to get the underwriting right, so that the people that come into that particular product, let's say, are of the profile that is expected, so that you're able to support the price and you're able to maintain that price, over a period of time.
Okay.
As you know, one of the good things that is there in the country, besides the lifelong renewal, is that you cannot, give different prices to different people on the basis of their, claims once they have come in, right? So everybody is community pricing, which I think is great. But that also makes the responsibility for the insurance industry that much more, because if we are, I tell people that if it's one thing to say that you're giving somebody lifelong cover,
Right.
But you can only give people lifelong cover if you're going to be there as a company around for a lifetime.
Right.
Otherwise, the lifelong cover means nothing. Correct. So pricing responsibly, underwriting responsibly, I think is very, very important. And to be honest, there are two sides of the coin here, right? Now, as a country, we don't yet have the kind of data that one would like to have in order to increase the science part of the of pricing. So we use a number of other factors, whether it is things like age, whether it is lifestyle, whether it is past conditions, BMI as an indicator, geography. You look at other proxies. There is more data that is there. It is not the most recent data, but there is data. We use other proxies. You try to look at what's happening in other countries where there is a similar target population to the population that you want to sell to. Try and use those indicators as proxies, etc. Look at what's happening in the market and arrive at a certain price for a certain target population.
Okay.
What is very important after that is to make sure that you're actually bringing that target population on board. And here, I think it's important for people to also understand, for the customers to understand. Just going back to the question you were asking Anand earlier about trust deficit, right? And I think I agree with what he was saying, that a large part of it happens at the time, in the beginning of the process. Part of that is not just the salesperson, but also the customer.
Okay.
Not appreciating the importance of full disclosure, right? Insurance is based on the principle of utmost good faith. And sometimes people don't understand the importance of the questions that are asked. They don't think that it is important. They don't think it'll have any impact, or they want to get through the process very, very fast.
Okay.
And then what happens is exactly the kind of scenario that you described, where at the time of claim, there is an issue. So it goes both ways, right? It's not just about the insurance industry. I think the insurance industry has a part to play. The distributors, of course, have a part to play. Customers also have a part to play.
Right.
But all these factors coming together, I think, will help. Just on pricing, though, what I do feel is that going forward, we will be able to add more science to the art. Things like data from wearables, things like electronic health records, genetic data and other things, I think will help us be more predictive in pricing.
Mr. Ravi, I think pricing and standardization are like two sides of the same coin in a way. To get more clarity on pricing, standardization helps. But in the recent times, is it that there is over standardization? Because all the products are same, or all the except add-ons or whatever. So do you think, are we moving towards over standardization in the industry?
If you're in terms of over standardization, no, I don't think that to be the case. See, I mean, standardization generally, if I think about what the regulator has done from a standardization point of view, whether it is a product itself or whether it is standardizing definitions, standardizing terms and conditions, standardizing claims related things, I think all that is really good, because it does help the customer feel more confident when they are going to buy.
Okay.
What it also does for the industry is that if a product is standardized, and I'm just talking about the standardized part for the moment, if the product is standardized, what it means is that to thrive in the industry, you have to be either really good at service, or you have to be really low on price.
Right.
Anybody who's in the middle is going to have a really hard time, because if all the products are standardized, you have to have the best service or the best price, ideally both. Having said that, what it also does is it does actually open up room for innovation also, right? As Srinivasan was saying, if you think about this as the base, and then you want to build a first floor, second floor, third floor on top, the design of that first floor, second floor, third floor is left in. There is still a lot of things that the insurance industry does not cover, right? Outpatient coverage, for example, is something that the insurance industry doesn't cover. Some of the impaired lives that Anand was speaking about, it's not something that is very widely covered. It is a product, many people have those products, but it is not something that is sort of a norm. So there is a lot of room for innovation, not just on the product, but the way the product is delivered, the way the product is experienced by the customer. There's a lot of room for improvement. So no, I don't think that there is over standardization. And the
Yeah.
standardization that is there, I think, is really good because it will make the industry perform better.
That's nice, Mr. Ravi. We'll move on to ma'am, Kalyani ma'am. Actually, if in such a scenario where we don't have uniformity in hospital expenses, or we even don't have complete standardization, though the industry is moving towards it, how much insurance cover, health insurance cover one should take, ma'am? What's your view on this?
Sridhar, my thanks to BusinessLine and to you for inviting me here. Happy to be here. When you think of how much health insurance you should have, it depends on a few factors, mainly your health status today,
Okay.
your age, your lifestyle factors like stress or whether you exercise every day, and your family health history as well.
Okay.
These factors give an indication of what health incidents you could face in the future and their severity. And of course, accidents can always happen. While deciding how much health insurance you need, you have to take into account also treatment costs. For example, a heart attack, how much does it take for treatment at a hospital of your choice? Right. So you need at least that much health insurance. A very important trend to remember is that treatment costs are going up significantly. So that amount will be quite a bit more in the years to come as your as your age increases also. And as a first-time customer, the insurance company may have a restraint on how much coverage it is willing to give you.
Right, ma'am. Yes.
Then comes the most important point, the affordability.
Okay.
My view is, please take the maximum coverage you can afford. Because when it comes to paying a hospital bill, that will be much less affordable for most of us.
Right.
So how much insurance you take and how you make it cost effective for yourself, you can follow a few strategies. Buy a basic policy, and when you want to enhance your policy, take a top-up policy. So let us say you decide on a 10 lakh rupee policy, a basic policy. Cover the subsequent 15 lakhs through a top-up policy. Right. So this combination of 10 lakh basic and 15 lakh top-up will be more cost-effective for you than if you take a 25 lakh basic policy. Okay. Another way to do this would be to take a special needs policy. Now, that depends on your perception of your need. For example, you can take a heart health policy, a cancer policy, critical illness. And of course, in these specific times, you can take a COVID policy. Right. And if you have a good basic policy, top-up policy combination, your special needs policy can be just a benefit policy so that it covers those gaps where expenses are not covered by these basic policies. Okay. For example, we are speaking of in COVID treatment, non-medical costs are not covered by standard policies. Right. But if you have a Corona Rakshak kind of policy, it's a benefit policy, which will, you can use that lump sum benefit to pay for these expenses. Okay. So it's nice, but all this would also require very proper due diligence. I think what is also required is a proper advice. Maybe I think all the panelists would agree. This is fine, and this is also complicated even for us. If you really want to expand the penetration of health insurance, I think even advisors' qualifications should also be clear. Do you think are there enough qualifications for advisors, madam? Do you think all that can be done, what you are saying? Before the advisor comes in, I think we, as people who are going to take insurance, should do a lot of homework. We should be prepared to research this product. Okay. We do a lot of research. When we buy a cell phone, we ask 10 of our friends. Okay. Why are we not doing that for insurance? And for health insurance, it's a big question we've got to answer. Right. So I need to say, who's your insurance company? What's your experience? Who's your advisor? Is he responding when you have a requirement? Right. We're not applying our minds to insurance purchase. Right. Yeah. You're right, ma'am. Just one more question, which is add on to this. What are the 3 top things you look when you are buying health insurance from a company? You know, because everything is in public disclosures. How do you look at it? Okay. There are so many companies, right? When you buy an insurance policy, What you're really buying is a promise that they will pay a claim at your time of need.
Okay.
So the first thing that you should know about is your target insurance company's financial strength.
Okay.
So you should look at solvency margin, solvency ratio. This is what shows their long-term claims paying ability.
Right.
As Mr. Vishwanath said, the company has to be around long enough for it to pay claims, and it should have the money to pay claims.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
When you ask, IRDA publishes it on its website.
Right.
So this is the first thing you should track.
Yeah.
Apart from ability to pay claims is the efficiency to pay claims.
Okay.
Now, how efficient is a company in paying claims? Look at the claims settlement ratio.
Mhm.
The settlement ratio should be competitive with other companies. It should be high, it should be consistent, and it should keep improving. So this gives you an idea that the company is taking care of this side of business. The third public disclosure information that can help you to decide which company to take insurance from is how well a company services its customers. What does it do to take care of unhappy customers? Look at the grievances disposal ratio. This again is published information. And if you see that it is consistently good and it keeps improving, the company is responsive.
Okay.
Apart from these, there are a couple of other factors that can help you to decide which company. Look at the service partner of your health insurance company or your health insurer.
Okay.
The TPA, the third party administrator health services. Talk in your circles, find out what is their track record. Do people say they are responsive? Do they say that they are, they're responsible with your claims? In which case, it gives you a lot of comfort about your health insurance policy.
Okay.
Also, your sales partner, your agent or broker or bank from whom you're taking the policy. Now, what kind of a reputation does he have in the market? Is he knowledgeable, as you said? Does he guide you properly in making a decision? Does he guide you through the documentation? And his reputation should be pretty high because he may be just the one point of contact between you and your insurance policy. You may never get to meet the company and you may never get to meet the TPA, but he's the one person who can guide you through this entire process. And, you have a lot more comfort that your health insurance is going to work the way you want it to work.
Right. Perfect, ma'am. You're right, because I think 2-3 days back, even IRDA has said that cashless treatment is being denied in some of the COVID cases, and insurers should have proper arrangements with the network hospitals and TPS. So TPS also play a very key role in this. Mr. Srinivasan, can you please tell us how do you ensure a proper performance of TPS in this regard?
See, actually, TPA is actually an agent of the insurer. So what he does or what he does not do impacts on the reputation and brand of the insurance company.
Yes.
So when an insurance company selects a TPA, they need to be very clear as to what kind of an organization they are selecting. They also need to tell them very clearly, what is it they expect in terms of customer service, how quickly the cashless approvals need to be given, how properly the customers need to be treated, how empathetically the customers need to be treated. All that needs to be very clearly spelled out in the SLA, which insurance company enters it with the TPA. And the TPAs also need to look at the quantum of claim which is being paid. See, why do we have a TPA? We have a TPA, one for a good customer service and also for managing claims well. I think both aspects need to be taken care of, and the insurers need to monitor on a very, very closely how the TPA is performing. And if they don't perform well, they must take some corrective action.
Okay. Ms. Roy, do you think that the existing regulation for TPS, I mean, to safeguard the healthy relationship between an insurer and TPA is adequate? This is to Mr. Roy. I'm just asking, do you think the regulatory framework to ensure a healthy TPA performance is there in place?
Yeah, Mr. Sridhar, absolutely. The regulatory frameworks are sufficient and very enabling. But as Mr. Srinivasan mentioned, it is up to the insurance companies to, ensure that those regulations and the customer satisfaction is achieved at the end of the day.
Right.
And what is happening now, many specialized health insurance companies are moving away from the TPA regime into in-house claims management altogether. So what's happening is the customer gets a one single window, clearance, both for issuance of a policy, claim settlement, grievance management, everything through from a single party. So I think that's becoming also a growing trend in the industry now. Many of the companies, whether it is general insurance or health insurance companies, are moving towards that. So that's also in good state for the customer's experience by and large.
Oh, that's perfect. Thanks, Mr. Roy. Mr. Ravi, continuing this discussion, we have this hospital registry which has been published by IRDA, I mean Insurance Information Bureau. Do you think it is working well? What is your take on that?
I mean, it is a large exercise, right? I mean, if you think about, for example, ourselves, we've got over 11,000 hospitals on our network cashless time.
Okay.
So it is a large exercise, and I think that first of all, it is the right thing to do. First of all,
Okay.
I think that it will help, and it is taking a little bit of time. I think. I believe that all the parties that are involved in it are working hard to improve the pace with which people get registered onto this database. But I think it is absolutely the right thing to do. And there are other discussions also that are sort of progressing in parallel now in the country, right? So like the National Health Database Mission, which will, where this will also be part of that in terms of, all the hospitals being connected, electronic health records, standardized claim forms and things like this. So look, the more we can digitize the experience, the more we can use trusted data across the entire value chain, the faster the processes are going to be and the less friction there will be, which ultimately benefits all stakeholders.
Fine, thanks for the insightful responses. I just have 5 more minutes before we open the floor rather for Q&A. One is related to the theme, to all the panelists. I'm just posing to say for 1 minute each. If COVID-19 is an inflection point, what kind of change you see after post-COVID scenario in the insurance sector? So maybe all of you can express your views on this, sir. The second one is the quantum of burden that health insurance or insurance in general is taking because of COVID-19. Now we have various estimates that the quantum of claims is already reaching 500 crore plus. So what would you see the financial burden on the health insurers, and does it have any relevance to solvency ratios? So 2 questions for each of you to dwell briefly. What is actually the inflection point? What is the change that you are looking in health insurance in the post-COVID? Second, how industry tackles the financial burden because of this COVID? Thank you.
So let me take it first. See, it's really an inflection point. The awareness about health insurance has increased tremendously.
Right,
so it's
sir.
just for insurers to really use this opportunity, go all out into the market, activate their intermediaries, and probably come out with better products, better claim settlement mechanisms, and tap the opportunity. I think if the pandemic goes away, people will forget. So we have seen, the human memory is very short. I think this is an opportunity the insurance industry should really use to spread the health insurance across the country.
Okay.
On the second point, you were talking about COVID claims are increasing.
Right.
Certainly it's increasing, and I know India is adding almost 31,000 people every day in terms of new infections. So it's really very disturbing scenario. But I think on the positive side, what I understand from the insurers is non-COVID claims are coming down. So hopefully, there is some kind of a balance. So I don't think that this will impact the insurance industry in a significant way unless COVID really goes out of control totally.
Thank you. Mr. Roy, can you please?
Yes.
Yes.
So apart from whatever Mr. Srinivasan has mentioned, which I think that one of this being an inflection point in the industry, largely from a technology transformation point of view, insurance is notorious for being a legacy business, paper heavy, and with lengthy proposal forms and policy documents, which nobody understands. So I think this is going to change the way the business is done. Digitization, transformation of the business is going to happen, both in terms of customer experience as well as in terms of claim services. So I think all companies are making tremendous investments in ramping up their technology front. Apart from whatever Mr. Srinivasan mentioned, I think this will be a game changer for the insurance industry after the pandemic pans out.
Oh. And about the financial burden? The
financial burden, I have the same views as Mr. Srinivasan. Though the COVID claims have gone up, the non-COVID claims have substantially gone down. But there are 2 points of view that these claims may come back once the COVID-related scare kind of settles down. But then the time will tell. But the insurance companies are watching all this very closely, and we are preparing for the worst while hoping for the best.
Oh. Mr. Ravi, will you please reflect on these points?
Absolutely. So a couple of points, right? Just to just a bit more on what Anand said. So I'll give you an example of what this does. I think it makes the insurance industry know that it is able to do things that it may have never thought possible. I'll give you a quick example.
Yeah.
So HDFC Ergo, as you know, recently purchased HDFC Ergo Health, and we're in the process of merging our systems and other things, right? So if you had told me 5 months ago that here's a plan, let us shut down all our systems, let's send everybody home, and then let us try to migrate all our core systems from one company to another company while doing it from home, I would have said that's impossible to do. And yet we did it, right? And it's because of the investments that we made in technology in the past that comes in. And now we're thinking about what else can be done in the future.
Right.
I really do hope. And, I'm wary of what Mr. Srinivasan said about people having short memories, but I do hope that people will perhaps have a slightly longer memory of this, and that what we are now seeing, particularly in that group that Srinivasan talked about, that is like the middle 50 crores who have the ability to buy policies but are not buying and are currently not covered. Okay. I do think that they will, sort of really get into this. The third and important thing that I must remember is that I have to go back to my sales team and say that one of the foremost minds in insurance in the country has said that we should be growing 100% and 200% every month. So we are certainly, underperforming, as per Mr. Srinivasan. So we have to go back and increase our targets to our sales guys as well. In terms of the financial aspects, look, I think two things. One is that nobody knows how it's going to pan out. We've got sort of a range of scenarios in terms of what it could mean in terms of claims, and some of the numbers are scary. And as Anand said, there are divergent views in terms of the claims that we're not seeing. Are we just pushing them down to the future? And some of them we are. How much of that is not really known? And if you look at some of the metrics that we track, they're actually beginning to catch up to pre-COVID levels now. Okay, so I think it's wait, watch, and see. And so going back to therefore Ms. Kalyani's point earlier, the financial strength is going to be so important, because I fear that that there may be some companies in the industry that will feel this stress to be at a level that is going to be difficult for them to handle. So I think financial strength and financial prudence on the part of insurance industry is very, very important right now, to make sure that we are conserving our cash, focusing it on paying claims, and sort of focusing ourselves on making sure that we remain financially strong through this time.
That's nice, Mr. Ravi. Ma'am, can you please focus on how customer experience will change? Inflection from the point of view of customer in the health insurance.
Yeah. COVID has brought about more awareness about hygiene. And just as much as we are worrying about washing hands, I find people are worried about how am I going to pay if I am tested positive? What do I do? If I stay at home, will I get paid? And the next question being, is my insurance sufficient? Will my current policy, pay the claim? And now with these special policies, I do see a lot of interest in terms of discussion, wanting to know information.
Right.
Now, whether this will convert into inquiries and sales, well, the companies have to strike while it is hot.
Okay.
If everything goes well and we are out of all this in a couple of months, that is when the sales apparatus should be at its most active, selling the next millions of policies.
Okay.
Just as much as we hope this country is going to continue washing its hands much after COVID has passed, we hope that they will buy more health insurance. This is one thing. If you're speaking of a threat financially to the insurance industry because of COVID claims, what about the huge impact that families have been facing financially?
Right.
Because one person was tested COVID positive. We had no clue what to do. We didn't know which hospital to go to. And, all this equipment and everything is costing the earth. And we don't know whether other 5 members of the family are also going to fall sick.
Yeah.
So, well, insurance has to be also sold on fear. And maybe this is really a point that has to be taken up and constructively built upon.
Right. Nice, very wonderful insights you have given, all of you, ma'am and sirs. Now we have a huge response from the participants. There are many questions. I will read out to them. I will just choose some of the panelists if they have mentioned. So I will begin Q&A, ma'am and sirs. The first thing is to Mr. Srinivasan. Again, this question is from Mr. Kannan Santanam. He says, from May 10th, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare guidelines, some insurers have started disbursement of expenses incurred on home isolation of COVID, whereas other insurers are not doing so. Why are insurers avoiding the claims? That is his question. This is Mr. Srinivasan, sir. You may be, he has not mentioned anybody, but I thought you may be the right person to say.
Okay. See, I mean, this pandemic is a little peculiar because, there's a possibility of people who are not having very serious symptoms can always take treatment at home, can isolate themselves at home. One good thing is, it's not very expensive to take treatment at home. That's a very positive thing. Second thing is, in case of many of the insurance policies, there's always a concept called domiciliary hospitalization. If somebody cannot get a bed in a hospital or the doctor advises him to stay at home and take treatment, the policies provide for it. So I'm sure the insurers will be very positive and certainly they will cover this, especially because the expenses are not very high.
And if I may add, this Corona Kavach will specifically cover this.
Definitely.
May 10th guidelines were before the Corona Kavach. Now that it has come into existence, these expenses should be covered. Right? Yeah. The second question is from Mr. M. Raghuraman. Mr. M. Raghuraman. He asks, do the existing health insurance policies not cover COVID-19? Mr. Ravi, will you please take this question?
I can't speak about every policy, but typically indemnity policies will cover COVID-19. If you buy a new policy, you should expect that there'll be a 30-day waiting period or some initial waiting period, which is typically 30 days. And after that, you should be covered for COVID, right? It may not cover everything. For example, that COVID covers, I think the earlier question, in terms of home care and things like that. Now, different companies have done different things. So in our company, for example, we are explicitly covering home health care, even in our core policies. So, I think you should do the research. Typical policies will cover it. And, I think as Mr. Srinivasan was saying earlier, the Corona Kavach is not a replacement for a full-fledged policy.
Okay.
Right? It is good. It is short-term. If that's what you can afford, that's what you should get. But if you can afford to get a full-fledged policy, that is really what you should be getting.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. And Mr. Roy, there is one very interesting question. Introduction of Corona Kavach looks as if for every unknown disease, a new cover will have to be taken. So I think.
Well, I don't think so because typically a typical health insurance plan will cover every kind of hospitalization.
Okay.
What the regulator has done is given the large amount of population which does not have health insurance as we stand today, they have decided to bring a affordable plan which will cover the current pandemic.
Right.
But then, as the other panelists, Mr. Ravi, Mr. Srinivasan, and Mrs. Nitya Kalyani has said, this is not a substitute for a comprehensive health insurance program. This is only a via media to tide over the current pandemic in case the person does not have the means to afford a full-fledged plan. But I would strongly recommend whoever can afford to buy a full-fledged health insurance plan should buy for themselves, their family, their parents, and everyone, every near and dear one, they should recommend them to buy.
Oh, that's nice, sir. I think the question was asked by Mr. Srinivas Somala. I think he might have been satisfied. Now, there is one Mr. Satya Sudhakaradu Janalagedda. He wanted you to briefly explain Arogya Sanjeevani and Corona Kavach. One of you, maybe any one of you, please take this.
I can explain maybe Corona Kavach and somebody else can explain Arogya Sanjeevani. So Corona Kavach is an indemnity policy, which means that it reimburses you for actual expenses you may have incurred. And it provides cover against medical expenses incurred due to hospitalization if you are diagnosed positive for COVID-19. Right? As we said earlier, it'll cover you if you are at a hospital. It'll also cover you if you are at home. It is unique in that it is a short-term cover. You have 3.5, 6.5, and 9.5 months that you can choose from. The reason that it's a half is because there is a 15-day waiting period. So once you buy it, there's a 15-day waiting period. After that, you're covered either for 3, 6, or 9 months, as the case may be. There is a discount for medical professionals of 5%, which is also offered as part of Corona, which I think the industry, the regulator of the industry are all very, very happy to do. It's a small measure to thank them for the amazing service that they are doing for the nation right now. So the home care expense benefit, just to clarify, covers up to 14 days. And then the actual cover is for 3, 6, 9 months after 15-day waiting period.
Ma'am, there is one interesting question from Mr. S. Ramesh. Maybe you can reflect on this, please. If the main problem for COVID is for senior citizens, why there is no Corona cover for more than 65 years?
I agree. It is very mystifying that the policy is not being offered for those above 65 years or below 18 years. In fact, they would be the population at risk. Yeah. I have no answer for this. This is also my question.
Okay, Mr.
What I would, if I could just jump in there, I think that there are, as we said earlier, core policies do cover COVID. And so, in those cases, my recommendation would be to consider buying either a senior citizen policy if the insurer of your choice offers one, and make sure that you're covered with that.
Mr. Roy, I have one question for you. You were talking about inflection in terms of digital technology and others, right? So there is a related question from Mr. A. Venugopal Reddy. He asked, please clarify whether online COVID treatment being offered by many hospitals is covered under these short-term policies like Corona Kavach.
Yeah, that's a good question. It is definitely covered under the Corona Kavach, because that would fall under the home care treatment facility given by the hospitals. So if there is a doctor prescribed home care treatment for anyone, definitely that will get covered.
Okay. And there is one more to Mr. Srinivasan. Sir, in the case of bank assurance, who should be the primary responsible person for the clients? It is, for example, HDFC or Bharti AXA. Who should be the customer get into touch with first when he's claiming?
See, actually, in an insurance contract, all are responsible. The intermediary is responsible. The insurer is also responsible. But typically, the way a health insurance claim happens, the person goes to the hospital and he approaches his TPA, and I think the TPA should take care of everything. There should really be no need for the person to approach his bank assurance partner or insurance company. I think that is what an efficient TPA would do.
Okay, so that's fine, sir. Thanks. Next is from one Mr. Bala Murali. Why there is no claim bonus? Why no claim bonus is not there now? He's asking why there is no claim bonus now. I paid almost 10 lakhs. He paid almost 10 lakhs in the past 10 years for his family floater policy of 5 lakhs per year without any claims. So why is not entitled for the claim bonus?
Well, that depends.
No claim bonus.
That depends on the product he may be having. Many of the insurance policies do have no claim bonus.
Yes, sir.
If somebody is taking care of their health and not making claims, definitely the policy rewards such customers by giving them additional sum insured to the extent of 100% also in some plans.
Okay. Okay, fine, sir. This is the next question is what we have been talking actually. Is from Govindan, Mr. Govindan Sridhar. As an individual insurance policy holder, I am holding on to an insurance policy for the last 7 years. He has a policy for the last 7 years, but many times I get only 50% of the cover. Remaining had to be put in from my personal pocket. So why is this happening?
No, it happens because of the terms and conditions of the policy. So that is where, this is where actually the grievance of the public on the insurance companies is there, because they don't understand that a product has certain exceptions, exclusions, certain inadmissible expenses. I think this is where, as Mr. Anand Rai was saying, that the intermediaries, agents need to be educated, so they tell the customer when they sell a policy clearly what is covered and what is not covered. And of course, I think over a period of time, the regulator is also trying their best to remove some of those pinpricks and make the product much more smoother.
Okay. Fine, sir. This is to Mr. Roy from Rajalakshmi Ramprakash. How can health insurance help in prevention and promotion of health instead of catering to an after illness event strikes?
Can you come again, Mr. Sridhar?
He says, why and how health insurance should help promote health and well-being. Generally, we claim after something has happened.
Yeah.
So the question is that why and how health insurance will promote health.
I get it. So see, I get that point. That's something definitely very important these days, especially with the importance of customers are now taking care of their health much more seriously. The health insurance companies are also promoting health and well-being through wellness programs and through telemedicine and all of that, so that it is better to be prevention is better than cure. So that's some idea. Most health insurance plans have some wellness programs built in, so customers can who are taking care of their health, who are walking 10,000 steps per day and reporting their numbers, definitely get some benefits from the insurance companies. Okay. So see, the ultimately the goal of the customer and the insurance company is aligned. Nobody wants anybody to be in a hospital. Neither the insurance company wants nor the customer wants to go to a hospital. So how do both work together? How does the entire ecosystem work together to ensure wellness rather than illness is something that is happening across the spectrum today.
Right. And if I'm right, I think even you have some guidelines on this, right? Portable health devices and all that.
That's correct. Some of the plans have that. If customers are using those portable health devices and reporting their health status, the plans give them some benefits.
Okay. This is to Mr. Srinivasan, because related to industry question. Has all the insurance companies announced home care for COVID treatment in their existing health insurance policies?
Well, as I told you, see, most of the health insurance policies have this domiciliary hospitalization cover. So I think we should allow this home treatment of COVID. Okay. And even if a policy doesn't allow, I would expect the insurers, keeping in view the kind of pandemic situation which is there, to take a very liberal view and provide this. And it is not a very expensive part of the health claim.
Okay. That's nice, sir. Thanks. And Mr. Ravi, there's a question from Mr. Bala Murali. If the TPA is agent of the insurance company, why a customer is being charged for TPA?
I don't know the specific case that Mr. Bala Murali is referring to, because we ourselves don't use a TPA, so I'm not quite familiar.
Maybe Mr. Roy. Yeah. Maybe Mr. Roy, you can chip in.
I don't think Anand uses the TPA either. Right?
I don't think
maybe
Mr. Srinivasan would
No,
be the
but,
best to answer this. We also don't use a TPA.
No, somebody has to pay for it, otherwise it gets built in as part of the insurance premium because it's a process of settling claims. So, I mean, those insurers who do not use TPAs will definitely charge for whatever their in-house claims department is going to cost. So I think, so it's the way the premium has been structured.
Okay. And I just have a few more questions. How this COVID handling scenario differs in India from the rest of the countries, sir? If you take insurance, for example, all countries got impacted by the COVID-19, right? So how do you see the difference in handling of insurance, health insurance between India and the rest of the world? This is to Mr. Srinivasan, sir. Maybe you may be able to give us some.
See, India, the biggest problem today is, we are struggling to, sort out the whole system. I think we are still in our early days. Typically a COVID claim from an insurance perspective should operate the same way as any other claim. The person goes to the hospital, he gets his cashless from the insurance company or from his TPA, and then he gets treated. But the problem in India today is a lot of this treatment is still happening in the government hospitals. Private hospitals have just come in and then they are now scaling up. So if the person, the problem in most of the cities where the cases are quite high, the hot seats of this country, I think getting beds is a challenge. So I think those infrastructural challenges are actually more difficult to handle than insurance claims. I think the insurers are able to handle these claims in a normal manner.
Oh, thanks. This another point is the digital technology, as Mr. Anand Roy was referring to. What are the next frontier in this, sir, in handling the health insurance? What will be the next innovation in digital technology?
So I can tell you about one, particular project that we are at Star Health driving, where we are talking about auto adjudication of claims through machine learning.
Okay.
One of the, as I told you in my earlier, question was the patient or the family members are very impatient at the time of admission, and they expect the insurance companies to respond immediately, or the TPA for that matter to respond immediately.
Okay.
So how do you respond immediately, and as you scale up your business without having to depend too much on manual intervention, and how do you create straight through processes through technology? I think that is something that you will get to see in the next couple of months and maybe a year's time from us and as well as others, that how can insurance claim processing move from hours to minutes and probably seconds in the future, so that, there will be ultimate customer delight, not only customer satisfaction.
I have a question to ma'am. Ma'am, as an independent insurance expert and analyst, what are the top 3 things you suggest to health insurance companies now to augment customer satisfaction and well-being?
It is getting more and more difficult for people to to start a policy at an older age.
Okay.
For example, if I am in employment and I have an employer's policy, this is not, part of my mind share till I'm 45 or 50, and then suddenly I want insurance. It is very difficult to get a policy at that stage.
Okay.
I think the demand would be high at that stage, and the companies also may see an opportunity there. Mm-hmm. And beyond a certain age, let us say 65, portability requests are usually turned down. Companies have issued circulars saying that porting in a policy beyond age 60 or 65, they're just not going to accept it. So which means a person beyond age 65 has no real options to port. So he's stuck with his insurance company, good, bad, or otherwise. This is another thing that possibly is going to become a pain point. Senior citizens are going to become a very large part of our population, and the demand for health insurance will be there from them. Of course, I understand the company's problem that the claims are also going to be high from there, but that is part of the ecosystem. The other thing is that, this is just a suggestion, perhaps a much higher awareness drive among the very young people about health insurance. should start. When somebody, and this used to happen even 30, 35 years ago, when someone just got a job and they were going to get their first salary, there would be an LIC agent there saying, "Madam, take a money back policy." And of course, you'd sign up, not knowing what the policy was all about. Nobody is doing that with health policies.
Okay.
This awareness at a younger age helps the customer a lot. Taking the policy at an earlier age is always an advantage. And these days, there's no such thing as lifelong employment. They're going to work there for 2 years and they're going to move on. They're going to be independent contractors. They are, they will find health insurance much more valuable and indispensable. And those will be the mass of your customers. So start targeting them at a younger age, create an awareness so that the demand comes from their side. These 3 things will help a lot in expanding health insurance to the benefit of both the customer and the company.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure all of the panelists will agree to this. Thanks a lot to each one of you, Mr. Srinivasan, Mr. Anand Roy, Mr. Ravi Vishwanathan, and ma'am Nichikalyani, ma'am. Thanks for joining, and we got massive response from the participants. And on behalf of Hindu Business Line, I thank you all for joining this. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Sri.
Thank you, Sridhar.
madam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all the participants also for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.